Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, and then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week, I predicted that number 1 would be Venom, number 2 would be Goosebumps 2, Haunted Halloween, number 3 would be A Star is Born, number 4 would be First Man, and number 5 would be Bad Times at the El Royale. And surprisingly, I got only 1 out of 5 of my predictions right, which may not be that bad to some people because there were 3 big releases. It's kind of unpredictable where they would land up, but I thought for sure I had that kind of nailed down. So let's go over what actually happened in the top 10. Number 1 was Venom, of course, once again. This movie had a drop of about 55%, so that's a little bit more than half, which is kind of what I expected. It wasn't like a huge 60 or 70% drop like I thought, but it did drop quite a few bits. So it only made $35 million this weekend, and that adds to a domestic total of $142 million, and on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $378 million. So even though it did have a pretty big drop this weekend, it's still making a ton of money. It's tripled its $100 million budget, and it's $22 million away from quadrupling it. Sony has already stated that they're moving forward with their Morbius film, which is the next installment in their shared universe. So this film has already proven to be a pretty big success to them, and apparently a lot of audience members on Rotten Tomatoes are enjoying it too. So hey, if there are people out there that are actually enjoying this film that I did not like, then that's totally fine. And I'm glad that they have their success with this. I'm not too happy because I thought this film was very subpar, but whatever. We're gonna get a bunch of new Sony Marvel movies now. Number 2 was A Star is Born, holding on very strongly, only dropping about 30% as compared to Venom. It made $28 million this weekend, and that adds to a domestic total of $94 million. And on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $135 million, which is quite outstanding for this film. I'm so happy that it's making so much money. I'm so happy for Bradley Cooper for directing this film, his first feature, and it's made so much money in his second weekend. I think that's such a great accomplishment for him. And even though Venom technically is making more money right now, I think a lot of people are going to remember Star is Born for years to come. I think aside from financial reasons, I think a lot of people will walk out of this and remember this film as a classic for years to come. Number 3 is First Man. It did not go to the number 4 spot, and it also was not trumped by Goosebumps 2. It was First Man, the technical highest grossing opening weekend out of the 3 new releases this weekend, making $16.5 million, and on the worldwide chart, it is already sitting at $25 million. Now, this movie cost $59 million, obviously Damien Chazelle's highest budgeted film, and right now it has already outgrossed Whiplash's entire domestic run. Worldwide, it still has a ways to go for both Whiplash and La La Land, but I don't think First Man will get La La Land numbers, but I do think it will be able to double its budget. At least I think there is a lot of praise for this film, so I think a lot of people will go out and see it, and domestically and worldwide, those combined totals will eventually double that pretty big budget. I guess it's a little surprising that maybe it didn't make a little more, like the fact that Damien Chazelle is kind of popular now, that more people would go out to see it, but I think it just kind of goes with the territory of making a biography film, and also it was a pretty busy weekend. A lot of people wanted to see Venom again, and A Star is Born. So moving on to number 4, we have Goosebumps 2, Haunted Halloween. The first movie opened with around $23 million. This one, unfortunately, opened with a little bit lower, $16.2 million. And now worldwide, it is also only sitting at $19 million. So not a pretty big starter, but since the budget is only $35 million, which is much lower than the first film's 50, they'll have a better chance of doubling that and making more money than the doubling point. It's just opening with this low numbers when it's a sequel to a film that was moderately popular. Like, you'd think maybe it would make more money with a sequel, but no, it's not looking that way at all, which is pretty unfortunate. But hey, it's Sony, and they just released Venom, which is a pretty big hit apparently, so they're totally fine. This is not a big problem to them. And also, I think they will eventually get past that $70 million doubling point that they need, so I don't think this is going to be a big loss for them. Number 5, we have Smallfoot, making $9 million, adding to a domestic total of $57 million, and on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $110. So $50 million away from doubling its $80 million budget. This does look like it's been a pretty big loss for Warner Animation, but maybe worldwide. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it has any other places it needs to be released to get that 50 million from. But honestly, I think the chances are very unlikely with this one. I think this is not going to make back that budget at all. Honestly, moving on to number 6, we have Night School, which made $8 million, and that adds to a domestic total of 59 million. And on the worldwide chart, we are sitting at 75 million. So that's pretty good for this film. It doubled its $29 million budget and made a little bit over that, so that's pretty good. I don't really have much more to add on to that, so let's move on to number 7, which is Quite a Tragedy, Bad Times at the El Royale. If you've seen my review, you know how much I love this film, and unfortunately it did not make it into the top 5. It only opened with $7 million this weekend on a budget of $32 million. Unfortunately, it looks like this is going to be a pretty big flop for Drew Goddard and 20th Century Fox, and that sucks, because I really love this film, and I was hoping that a lot of people would go out and see it just off of other people's recommendations, but I guess not. The word of mouth wasn't strong enough, I guess. So that's a pretty big bummer. The Cabin in the Woods was a moderate kind of hit, you know. It didn't make a whole lot of money, but it was able to double its $30 million budget at least. It just kind of sucks that this movie just looks like it's not going to get the attention I think it deserves. Moving on to number 8, we have The House with a Clock in Its Walls, making $3 million, adding to a domestic total of $62 million. And on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $101 million. So maybe now that it's past the $100 million threshold, maybe Universal will consider making a sequel at this point. I'm still not entirely sure, since this isn't a huge hit at least, but it is moderate enough that maybe they could get away with it. Moving on to number 9, we have The Hate U Give, which has been in limited release for a while now, and next weekend it goes into wide release, and it made $1.7 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $2 million on a budget of, I'm not entirely sure, but that's pretty good. It's gotten a lot of attention in its limited market, and soon it will be released worldwide, so we'll have to see where that goes next week. I'll make a prediction at the end of this video, of course. And finally, number 10, A Simple Favor, making $1.3 million, adding to a domestic total of $52 million, and on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $83 million. So A Simple Favor is leaving the box office top 10 with the knowledge that this is Paul Feig's lowest grossing film. However, it is still a pretty big success, all things considered. Like, it's made a lot of money. When you look at the budget and see what the difference is with the worldwide total, Paul Feig did make a pretty solid hit here, and I'm glad that he got a lot of money out of this, because it is a pretty good project. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, pretty easy, Halloween. And then number 2, Venom. Number 3, The Hate U Give. Number 4, A Star is Born. And number 5, First Man. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below, and if you got your predictions right for this week, you're going to get a shout out right now. Unless you didn't get it right, then I'm sorry. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.